The Ranger can be your thief, your alchemist, or your assassin extraordinaire. Let's break down everything this roguish class brings to the table. We're going to be using our Grizzled Loki here today to showcase the Ranger in today's guide, looking at all of the specializations and abilities they can pick up, the upgrades to those abilities that skill mastery tomes provide, some of their best equipment options, alchemy options, and finally synergies with other characters. The Ranger overall is a low durability, high damage character with a skill set that makes them dangerous from short to medium range. They do damage based on their dexterity, and so their most important stats, base stats here, are going to be dexterity and critical hit. You can round this out with a little bit of constitution if you like to play a little bit more conservatively, and also add in some movement if you find that your battles are becoming very spread out. Their consistent game plan across any of the specializations is to allow other allies to fully engage the enemies, and then they can sneak around with free movement to be able to get in a couple backstabs for high burst damage. At level 2, they pick up their Valor Point generation. I've already locked in Valorous Audacity for all of these focuses because that is my favorite. The other ones that bear mentioning are Valorous Victory, gaining a Valor Point every time that you kill an enemy. I find that it's a little inconsistent to be able to make sure that this character is getting the kills to be able to generate the most Valor Points, but this does have close synergy to the Cutthroat specialization, and it is their only way to be able to generate multiple Valor Points a turn. Valorous Support is fine if you play really conservatively with your character. Every time this character ends their turn next to an ally but is not engaged in combat, then you'll gain a Valor Point. I prefer Valorous Audacity, being able to pick up those Valor Points if you're next to an enemy but not engaged, because I really want my Rangers in lethal range, able to be able to do that next strike on their next turn. We're going to show off 4 builds in combat, and unlike the Swordsman, who was my previous guide, I felt like the passive skills had a natural specialization that they paired up with, and not necessarily as well with the other ones, but here with the Ranger, there is an enormous opportunity to be able to mix and match any of these passives with any of the specializations, especially the Cutthroat specialization has strong synergies with all of these guys down here. That being said, we're going to lock in Cutthroat first. All of these are going to slate the Ranger to using light armor, giving them high mobility, a little bit of crit damage depending on the suit of armor that you are choosing, and we also gain Frenzy. This is going to deal 10 to 13 damage to the target at the cost of 2 Valor Points. Now that is absolute garbage because 2 Valor Points is extremely expensive, and 10 to 13 damage based on our dexterity is a very bad ratio use of our dexterity. But the key is that when we ambush a target, so when we attack an engaged enemy directly from behind, we will trigger 2 additional attacks, getting 3 attacks total, and this is where you get such beautiful synergy with all of your oils applied to your weapon, able to give them multiple times to trigger, and these wonderful passives that the Ranger has access to. Poison Weapon will add stacks of poison if you are ambushing a target. Knife Throw, after you use an ability, you are going to throw out a knife and do a little bit of extra damage within a ranged attack. The key synergy here comes in once you upgrade both of these abilities, so it's hard to get to, but once you have it, it's pretty great. If you upgrade Frenzy and it scores a kill, it will reset, allowing you to use the ability again in the same round, which is unique. You don't have any other abilities that do that. And Knife Throw says that after you throw it, it will reset your movement. So as long as you're still scoring kills, you're going to be throwing knives, resetting your movement, and you can keep on bouncing around the combat as long as you have the Valor Points to keep up this 2-point Valor Point expenditure. Deadly Contract is going to find the closest enemy and apply fragility to them, increasing the damage that they take by 30%. Wonderful if you want to gang up on them and focus them down, one target, one round, and just eat through the enemies in that way. Finally, Ordeal says that every time you attack an enemy with a status effect, you will apply a stack of Fever, which will increase the damage they do. Very similar to Deadly Contract, but you have a different criteria on when you are going to be able to apply it to an enemy. This also synergizes really well with Frenzy because you can open up an attack from a Poison Dagger to get that status effect, and then go in with Cutthroat to get stacks of Fever really high on that target. Now that we've broken down all these passive, we'll be able to move through the rest of the guide faster, hopefully just hopping into battle and being able to showcase what's new with the specialization and the abilities. Let's go ahead and lock in Deadly Contract for this opening showcase, and then let's upgrade these abilities so that we can get the max out of them. Here's our fully kitted out Cutthroat. While he does have, as I said, a lot of synergy with being able to apply some damage over time status effects, we're just going raw burst damage. We have the Steel CX, which is the knife that you are able to craft. It gives you a bonus to your crit hit chance when you're ambushing, so everything in this kit is revolving around ambushing the enemy. We have a beautiful set of light armor here, augmenting our movement, critical hit, and dexterity, everything that the ranger is looking for. And then we're carrying a torch so that we just have a free offhand attack. Kind of fun. We could swap this out for, say, a poison throwing knife here. Be able to have a little bit of a range attack for some more variety, and maybe we'll actually go for that. Finally, our belt accessory is the whetstone, giving us critical hit increase by 10% during attack from behind, further synergizing with the steel sack, so we should basically always crit against enemies who are being ambushed. Okay, we are here to showcase the ranger, and we've taken the most damage and valor point hungry build to begin with. So we're going to run Eowyn here, go ahead and soften up this enemy, which will be easy for her to do because he is already made vulnerable by Loki's passive, doing work even when it's not his turn. That's what you like to see out of a character. Now Lagatha is going to run up and engage this enemy, who also has a vulnerability applied to them. As long as she doesn't crit, well, they'll be engaged and be able to open up that backstab opportunity. The enemies take some meaningless turns, and now it's Loki's time to shine. He's going to run up, be able to just clip the edge here. We're going to pop in Frenzy, see what we can do. Crit, 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 3 crits in a row, finishes him off, and then that resets the ability so he can move immediately right up here to be able to rinse and repeat against this hired killer. Oh, he is 6 for 6 on crits. Now we could just capture him. We could do a poison knife throw. We can use the stab. Yes! Oh, this damage is so good. And there we go. We are 4 valor points poorer, but the enemies, their numbers are being whittled down quite quickly. With our other characters' turns, we've tried to recoup our significant valor point expenditure so we can go another round, be able to show off what Loki's able to do. We have this hired killer who's looking to move next. No one's in range, but they will try and close. That will put them in close proximity for Loki to be able to show us his magic. We already have an enemy engaged right over here. So let's go ahead, take our archer just down here, be able to apply some more area of effective damage and burning all over these enemies, and we're going to allow them to walk into our trap. Now, quite similar to before, Eowyn is going to help set things up, moving around, interpose herself between this enemy and the rest, break down their guard value with the destabilizing strike. Team Strike opens up to soften them up just a little bit more. And now it's over to the ranger. Okay, first up we want Loki to be able to drop this hired killer. Frenzy comes in. Oh no, you came up 1 damage short? 1 damage short? That's a worthless character. Okay, I'm trying to decide out what the best play is here. I think we go up. We'll just give the tactical order to Eowyn and go ahead and finish the job here. And then Loki can still run around behind. Now, because Frenzy did not score the kill, it doesn't reset. You gotta be able to get those kills, my man. We're gonna see here, and with the basic attack, we're still able to finish him up. I was hoping that we would be able to pull that off. Ooh, very nice damage indeed. Honestly, when his basic crits hit like that, then paying 2 valor points to be able to use Frenzy doesn't feel as good. All right, we're now galvanized, so I wanna see some crazy numbers coming out of Loki here. We're going to open up with the Poison Dagger, 31 damage on a range attack. That's what Galvanize does partially. And the 95 damage crit. There it is. I was hoping a little bit for 3 digits, but we'll take it. Yeah, I made him Loki. Do you see him? I named him Loki. I'm going to name my archer Clint. Should I have named him Tom? I probably should have named him Tom Hiddleston, so that it would keep up with the theme better.
No, Lieutenant Loki sounds better.
Lieutenant Loki sounds better. But I feel like doing Hawkeye is too on the nose for the archer.
No, but like Loki, it's like Loki, God of Mischief.
Yeah.
So Loki and Clint are in the same thing.
That's true. That is his actual name, and this is his actual character name. Rather than going to the actor. There's so many layers when you have a hero with an alternate identity, and then they're also the actor. Yeah, it's crazy. So far my grouping is the swordsman is Eowyn, Lord of the Rings. The dagger ranger is Loki. The what? Yeah. The warrior that I had to recruit. So when I recruit them, I don't get to choose what gender they are. So I've got a girl who's the warrior, which means she uses axes. So I named her Lagatha, which is the Ragnar's wife, like Viking lore. And then my big hammer wielding guy is Odo. Do you know that one? That one's like a deep cut, deep history take. There was a bishop in the Crusades era who is, or maybe it's at the Battle of Hastings. He like fights on one of the sides, but bishops are like quote unquote not supposed to spill blood. So he uses a big ol' hammer so that he could still fight without spilling blood. The church technicality. Whether or not that's even true or he saw any fighting is unknown, but his name was Odo. And he's in like some tapestry carrying a mace so that he can technically follow the church's rule. I think that's a fair showing of what the most aggressive and damage-focused ranger build can do. Now we're going to flip gears entirely and pick their most support and utility-oriented build. We're going to go strategist down into knife throw, and let's take a look at what these abilities bring to the table. So the strategist is allowing us to throw out the smoke screen, a 10-meter area, very large area actually. It forces enemies engaged in the area to disengage, incurring attacks of opportunity from all of your companions. If you choose to upgrade this with a skill tome, then enemies who are not engaged in the area will be knocked back 2 meters. This is not a great skill level up. I don't think it's the a place that I would actually spend a skill book, but this is useful if you are fighting a lot of Legionnaire style enemies who have the Overwatch bows and you want to be able to disrupt their Overwatches, because if you hit them, you're going to be able to break up those zones. Then down here at knife throw, after using a skill, we're going to do 7 damage to the closest enemy within 8 meters, and once we skill it up, we are going to be resetting our movement as we throw, giving us enormous freedom to be able to be anywhere on the battlefield that we need to be. Here is our full strategist build for Loki. We are splashing in a little bit of poison with the damage dagger, poison throwing knife, and poison vial, and then adding even more variety by actually going with the burning oil. Applying all of these status effects keys off of a skill doing damage, and I don't believe that the throwing knife counts as a skill. So it's not going to have crazy high poison application potential, but we want to have as much of a vicious cocktail of status effects as possible, especially with this utility style build that we have gone for here. We're hopping into battle against a group of guards here. They have their captain unfortunately isolated really well, so it's going to be difficult to be able to engage and pull away that movement buff from all of them. But we have selected this group of guards as the perfect opportunity to showcase the ceilings that you can reach with a strategist ranger. Our goal, our game plan, is to engage all 3 of these enemies and then be able to use smoke screen to trigger attacks of opportunity against all of them at once. We'll see if the battle plan actually survives, but we're going to try our best. First off, we just need to fend off the rest of the enemies from trying to interfere, so we're going to use jab to hold them off. Now we want to make sure that these guys stay in position because they are already grouped up in a way that would allow us to catch all of them with a smoke bomb. Odo comes in to engage the lieutenant, and then it's going to be Eowyn's turn to run into this foot soldier. She's going to come up, start to soften them up. If we're going to try and burst down one of these with the help of Loki, it'll probably be this foot soldier here. Okay, enemies are primed. Let's see what we can do. We're going to run up here, give the tactical order over to Eowyn. She gets the attack of opportunity from that, and we throw a knife. That will shatter his armor, priming him for execution. Now we're going to use smoke screen, so we have a range that we can throw it out, and then it has a larger radius, and this is not going to affect any of your friends. It's only going to help us. Because it will cause the enemies in the area to disengage, we want to make sure that we dish out the rest of our damage now. And we're going to come around, be able to use the poison dagger, soften this guy up. Oh yes, we get the crit. We've applied burning. This guy's having the worst day of his life. Plus the knife throw. Yep, right to the back. Love it. Now, he doesn't need any more damage dealt to him, and our movement has kept on being reset every time we throw the knife. So we have perfect freedom to position to the exact point that we want. We're going to come over here. We're going to use the poison knife right into his back. Now we're going to use smoke screen. This is going to cause them all to disengage and take attacks of opportunity. That's 1 kill, 23 more damage, 16 more damage, and a knife throw. It ends up being a very Valor Point hungry turn, but we got a lot of good work out of the strategist there. Obviously, if you fight in an even closer formation that has more enemies engaged with you, you're going to be able to get even more work out of that smokescreen attack. Honestly, the rest of this battle has gotten a little bit dicey. I don't love it, but we're going to see how much the Ranger is able to help us salvage this situation. So we have Lagatha over here who's dying, and we have this hammer enemy who would love to run in and just absolutely take her down. Lagatha is going to be one of the characters that helps us out with another class guide, so we can't afford to lose her. So we're going to run right up here and be able to support Axe. First off, smoke screen here, get the disengage, a little bit of knockbacks for some of the other enemies. Major attack of opportunity there out of Axe because he has just such a crazy weapon. He's got one of the boss weapons. Movement is happily reset. So we need to actually tie this guy down. Normally, you don't want your Ranger being caught in an engagement, but this is our time. We're going to go ahead and start poisoning him up. Hopefully, softening him with the status effects will help Loki come out on top. Now he's going to do the stab, an extra stack of poison, and the throw. Very good. We are going to get clapped with this axe attack, but it's better us than Lagatha. With this Ranger build, I highly recommend taking Run to be able to disengage your Ranger at will. It just builds on their freedom of movement this build provides. And then honestly also add on First Aid. You can buy extra basic skill tomes from the black market agents that appear at the cleared out bandit camps once you go far enough down the path of crime and chaos. We're going to run here, free disengage, knife throw off of that. And it would all just build together in having this character allow basically total control over your battlefield situation here, able to come over, provide that extra disengage. We could have also used the smoke screen, but it's one Valor point either way. And also keep on using the movement resets from throwing knife to be able to run all the way across the battlefield to potentially provide first aid to someone who you could not have been able to help otherwise. Ooh. 40 damage off of a poison throwing knife? This is the utility build. Once you're galvanized, I guess you can still take down anyone. The utility ranger build is certainly not my favorite, but hopefully that showcased how much advantage it can bring if you are fighting in a really close formation with smokescreen, being able to get your allies out of engagements effectively at will, and then throwing knife being able to provide effectively the opposite, allowing your character to span really spread out battlefields and provide assistance wherever necessary. Now we're going to delve down the poisoner route. So we have poison vial, and then we're going to grab poison weapon as well, trying to destroy our enemies with poison effects rather than raw damage. Poison throwing knife has been our best friend throughout all of this, so he's back, and now you can choose if you want this build to do most of its damage through the status effects, or if you have one Smotzarina, you'll be able to bring in a Viper. This dagger will take away the main weakness of the poison status effect, namely that you don't get to control when it goes off. It just triggers at the end of the enemy's turn. Attacking with this will consume all the stacks of poison on the enemy and amp up the damage of this basic attack. Poison Vial is going to be very similar to Smoke Bomb in terms of its range, but it's applying 3 stacks of poisons to everyone, meaning that it can hit you, it can hit your allies, and of course you're going to be trying to focus it in a way that it will only be hitting enemies. As we level it up with a skill tome, it will be applying vulnerability to enemies who are already poisoned, which is absolutely crazy, guaranteeing critical hits against them on that next attack. The poison weapon passive is applying a stack of poison if you're attacking an enemy from behind, and as we skill it up, then the poison is going to spread to nearby enemies, similar to how burning can spread. This is a very nuanced case because enemies don't usually stack right adjacent to each other, but when they do, this is going to be a devastatingly powerful effect. We set up to fight this bandit squad in the rain, and I'm actually really enjoying this deployment zone. We're able to completely surround the enemies. So we're going to engage the captain, knock off the troop bonus, the extra defense bonus that he's going to be providing to everybody. And now I truly hate bombers, so we're going to come in and see if we can just wipe this guy out before he even gets a turn. Now, the key is, if we can finagle this, oh no, how close do I have to get? We might have to poison ourselves here. Okay, poison knife against the bomber. That's gonna poison him. Now poison vial against the 3 of them. That will stack up. So he has 5 stacks of poison and vulnerability, of course. Now, Toxic Blade. 52 damage, guaranteed crit, and amped up damage for every single stack of poison on that poor sucker. That's not the highest damage we've seen, but it was a pretty smooth execution nonetheless. With this build, you're certainly going to want to take the Poison Mastery Knowledge upgrade. I'm actually not sure how functioning it is because this enemy took 9 poison damage with 4 stacks of poison. This enemy took 11. The 11 is more in line with the bump up to 6% off of the poison. It still reads on the tooltip 5%, so I'm a little iffy on if this is a early access bug or not, but for whenever they fix it, you're definitely going to want that point in mastery to be able to leverage as much as you can out of the poison. We're going to see how crazy this Toxic Blade can get. So we're going to have to use Run here to be able to get the disengage and then throw out Poison Vial. You can use Poison Vial while you are engaged, but it has to center on the person that you are engaged with, meaning that you're also going to poison yourself, which is never a pleasant experience. All right, what does Toxic Blade do right now? You can check the update here, so it's going to do 53 damage and leave us just short. Of course, if we crit, we'd be able to seal the deal, or we can play it safe and use the Poison Knife Throw. Poison Knife Throw crits, naturally. Stacking up even more poison. Okay, now this is going to be overkill. Ah, yes, the 60 damage crit. Another way that you can see even greater returns from this style of build, and especially the Viper unique knife, is if you bring in multiple poison masters, and then you can get the stacks of poison going to really crazy numbers on the enemies extremely quickly. This guy's for sure a gunner based on the status effects. This guy, not so much. We're gonna play a little dirty with Jab here and whittle him down with the spear throw. We're gonna poke this bomber just because I hate bombers, and then we're gonna come back here and use Spear Wall to make sure that we hold that raider in place right over the burning, so the status effects will finish him off. Or, you know, Spear Wall will finish him off, but either way, Jab. 31 damage. Well, that is certainly a lot out of that poison. I'm really not sure if the poison build is going to be the best option out of the Ranger. It certainly is fun, and they have a lot of skills that synergize with it, but you're going to need battles that take over multiple rounds of that poison applying to be able to really see the best benefit. Here we go, Toxic Blade, just finish him. Yes. 45 damage, that's with the Galvanize ticking. Watching the enemies just fall to the effects of poison certainly is fun. You're going to be able to get a lot of use out of this if you have very tanky allies, or if you're putting several polearms together with the Spear Wall ability to pseudo cancel their turns. The more turns that you get to go with that poison ticking on them, then you're going to be able to see an enormous scaling advantage for the damage of that poison focus build on your Ranger. Our final showcase is going to be taking Assassin. Now this is a class you have to unlock. What you have to do is you have to win Smots Arena and then return to the Virtusian Windmill and speak to the old gladiator there, and he will allow you to unlock this new class for your Ranger. You have to fight several assassins in the arena, so you get a feel of what they are able to do, and it is pretty good. Their natural pairing is Assassin and Ordeal, though I could easily see Assassin doing quite well with both a Deadly Contract and Knife Throw as well. Maybe not quite as much poison weapon as some of the other classes, but we're going to show off the classic Assassin and Ordeal combo. The Assassin's skill is called Right Between the Eyes, inflicts 16 to 22 damage, and applies Bleeding. Point and click bleeding effect at range is so good. It's also very rare in the game, but that's not all. If the target is already bleeding, the damage is doubled, and once we skill it up, the critical damage of the attack is increased by 30%. So if you have a way to be able to apply vulnerable to the target as well, this can be an absolute haymaker execution attack. Ordeal here says that when you attack at a target with a damage over time a status effect applied, you will apply 2 stacks of Fever. This is the leveled up version. If you don't spend the skill tome, you get 1 stack of Fever. I realize I keep on switching to the poison throwing knife away from the torch, which I usually have on him, so we're going to keep the torch here. Here we find ourselves up against a gang of just bog standard bandits, and their leader is a hoodlum, a ranger, who fancies himself superior to us. Well, we'll show him that our Loki can take him down without even breaking a sweat. Game plan here is to send in Odo first. He's using the Legionnaire Hammer. If he damages armor, then he will apply bleeding. This means he is perfectly primed for a takedown out of Loki. So we can skate on up and then go for right between the eyes. 84 on a crit. Oh my gosh, the damage is so good. All right, now we're going to go up and show this poacher what a bad time he's in for. Torch Strike applies burning, and then Ordeal triggers immediately, giving him 2 stacks of fever as well, opening him up for a devastating attack out of the basic. Didn't crit, but he's still down to just 6 health, 4 stacks of fever. Anything is going to finish him off now. This does make me wish that I'd taken Wrath on Loki just so that we could squeak out a little bit more damage when we really needed to. That would definitely be a good option on your assassins. It is very important to note that the right between your eyes assassin attack cannot be used if you yourself are engaged in combat. So it's going to be very important to have run on your assassins, or maybe even the offhand weapon that will give you a disengage. They're both effectively the same. Honestly, I think run is better because for a valor point you also get the reposition, and then your offhand is free to be able to have something like Torch Strike. But if you don't have the ability to go to the black market and pick up these extra basic skills, then the offhand weapon, I believe it's like the Blinding Dust, would be pretty good. We're going to hit this guy with the Torch Strike, use run to disengage, which I think is hilarious how it spins your character around, but they still do the little fighting animation. So we run over here, clip him right between the eyes. Then, we'll go up, we'll just finish him with the knife. 48 damage on the crit. Very respectable damage, and move over here to be able to recover. Oh no, we want to go right up here. This will recover our valor point, but it will also allow... Do I allow Snipe to punch him? Sure, let's just watch our archer punch our friend. Oh no, when he has the bomber bow, he doesn't have to punch, but he doesn't apply fire? Okay, that's a brand new nuance to me. So, what happened is Snipe has the stylish bow, which is the bomber's bow. That bow, for some reason, does not flip when they are engaged to just punching. Normally, when you fire it off, it will also apply its fire over the area and then hit burning, which would have been terrible in this situation with all of us grouped together. But for some reason this time it did not apply burning. I mean, I'll take it, that did so much damage. Pairing up your assassin with somebody with a weapon that's going to apply bleeding, or another ranger going down that poisoner specialty, is going to be a match made in heaven because they capitalize so much off of the enemies having those status effects applied. If I sprint, do I get engaged? Yes. Torch Strike. Into poisoning. We're galvanized, so our damage is crazy high. We just needed to finish this off. That is the full suite of all the Rangers' abilities and passives. They are all viable. I think that, the Strategist might be on the weaker side, though obviously an enormous ceiling if you're able to catch a lot of enemies engaged together with that smoke bomb. Cutthroat, very valor point heavy, but it gets the job done with the damage. Poisoner, also being able to throw out all those status effects, can be great for queuing up other allies, supporting, and even using the Viper Dagger to be able to do a lot of damage just directly and immediately, taking away the main weakness of playing through the status effects. The Assassin specialization might actually be my favorite, with that right between the eyes attack, able to do over the top damage if you set it up right, and because it's at range, it makes your ranger just that much more flexible on how he's able to assist across the entire battlefield. I will call out that the one weapon we did not get to show off is the Ringleader's Dagger that the bandit leaders, if they are rangers, use. It does an area of effect attack, and if it hits multiple enemies, it's going to apply a poison cloud underneath those enemies that stacks up 2 stacks of poison every turn. It does give you a head start for sure on being able to apply poison to those targets, and because it is impacting the battlefield, if you have a lot of knockback effects or just clever in your positioning, you can utilize those poison clouds for multiple turns. Alchemy is certainly your friend for your ranger. Here it is, the blinding powder, to be able to get the blind, which gives you an instant disengage at the cost of a valor point. And then all the synergies with the oils is going to be great for your ranger if they're cutthroat. I mean, even if they're using the other abilities, they're going to get multiple attacks around pretty often, and that will greatly increase the chances of being able to apply these special effects. If you're looking at the preferred profession to be able to apply to your ranger, I've got angler because that's what the party needs, but that is a garbage ability if you want them to really be getting synergy out of the stats that it provides. You're probably going to want to go thief, giving you a mix of dexterity or critical hit. Alchemist will just go raw dexterity, and then tinkerer, once you level it up, is going to provide you raw critical hit. For our final point of synergy with other companions, rangers walk a fine line of needing the other heavy-duty melee companions to engage the enemies, give them the freedom of movement to get around and do the backstabs and the burst of damage, but they also synergize really well with other rangers. They have so many ways to queue off of each other's status effects that they're applying that you could run 2 or 3 of these guys and have some pretty insane combos. My personal preference is to play with one ranger and then pair them up with some heavy two-handed weaponry. If you want the ranger to be the main character dealing damage, you can go here with the brute, the legion two-handed hammer, guaranteed to apply bleeding. That's going to really queue up your ranger to be able to cut down enemies once you have that status effect applied. You can equally look to your warriors with the great pig iron axe that is going to be able to guarantee crits for the warrior if the enemy is poisoned, which is so easy for the ranger to be able to trigger. So these two hunting together is also an excellent combo. That is everything for the ranger. Let me know down in the comments if you guys think I missed anything and also what your favorite ranger build is. I really love the design of this character because there is so much diversity in terms of their playstyle that you can bring in with the different specializations, and I feel like every single passive is to some extent viable no matter what specialization you choose. But over all of this, they still keep the same core archetype of wanting to be able to move freely throughout the battle and dish out lots of burst damage, either through status effects stacking or through enormous critical hits. The warrior and brute are up next for getting guides made, so subscribe to the channel if you want to make sure you see when those guides come out. Really looking forward to being able to go through all the classes here. Until next time, thank you guys for watching and have a good one.